Hello everyone. Today's lesson will be on English. And I'll mainly be going through the paper 2, which is comprehension, and I'm just giving you a brief overview of the all three sections A, B, and C of paper 2. So as you can recall, section A will be a visual text, section B will be a narrative text, and section C will be a non-narrative text plus a summary. So basically just a recap of the format of the paper 2, which is a comprehension paper. Alright. There are three components, and just a recap of the weightage of the marks. For section A, visual text, it is 5 marks. For section B, narrative passage is 20 marks, and for section C, the non-narrative passage will be 25 marks. So one thing to take note is that in terms of the mark allocation, you should not be spending more than 10 to 15 minutes on the visual text. So total time is about 1 hour and 15 minutes. So about 10 to 15 minutes will be allocated to the visual text. And about 40 minutes should be allocated to the narrative passage, right? And about 15 minutes should be allocated to the non-narrative passage. And you'll probably have about 5 minutes to check. Alright. So in the new comprehension format, there are very few literal questions, which means literal meaning that you can actually directly leave the answer from the passage, right? So a lot of it will be you have to sort of phrase it in your own way, and also there's something called access denied, which means that you should not be giving too long answers, because if you provide irrelevant answers, and excessive amounts of irrelevant answers, the whole answer will be considered as rejected. So let's begin with the visual text, section A. What actually is the essence of the visual text is that you are required, to make connections, between the visuals and the written text, within the visuals, right? So basically you have to look at the pictures, so it can be photos, graphs, illustrations, and you have to look at the words and see how, they actually work together, to, for example, bring across a certain message. What's the purpose? What's the message that they're trying to bring across, and what is the intention of the author, right? What are they trying to get the reader to do, for example. So in order to analyze a visual text properly, I think we have mentioned this a little bit in the overview of the syllabus, right? There's this thing called the PAC, purpose, audience, and context. Actually it's PACC. There's also such a thing called culture. Although the culture does not feature very heavily, but you sort of have to know the culture in order to sort of infer who the audience is and what is the context as well. So culture is also helpful, in helping you to derive the other three components, right? So purpose, audience, context, and culture is very important. I'll be spending some time in subsequent lessons, going in depth into analyzing the text for these 4 points. So for example, what is purpose? Purpose will be what is the, for example, main objective, right, of this visual text, right? Is it meant to just inform you about something, or is also to persuade you, right? Which means that it wants you to adopt the same stance that it has, right? Or to sway you into doing something, right? So next audience will be who is the target audience, right? So who are they targeting? So basically it's referring to the target audience. Sometimes there will be more than one target audience. There's a primary audience and a secondary audience. So context, it means what's the specific circumstance, for which this visual text is created, right? So sometimes maybe, for example, as you can see later on, maybe in the case of money lending, the circumstance is that you're trying to sort of like get people to look out for illegal moneylenders. Okay, and the circumstance is that in Singapore there are still illegal moneylenders, okay, who are sort of doing it illegally and harassing people, okay, and in the process doing things like vandalism, etc. Okay, so that's the context, and culture will be a lot of times it will be culturally specific. Okay, so it could be targeted specifically at Singaporeans, okay, because the culture that it relies on, okay, to reach out to its target audience, okay, is based primarily on Singaporeans, for example, their taste or the language that we use. You know, only Singaporeans will understand it. So this goes towards culture, right? So are there any images or words that relate to the particular culture? Okay. So that's just a brief overview of what PACC means. Okay. So there are other things that you have to analyze as well in the visual text. Okay. For example, the structural arrangement of the text features. Okay. So how are the various components arranged, right? Here you are just referring to the text. Okay. So structural arrangement of the text, right? So there will be usually a large heading followed by a subheading. Maybe there will be logos and captions, right? So different structures of arranging all these words will actually lead you to focus your attention on different things, right? And that sort of helps to bring a certain message across. Typographical features. Okay, so typographical features will be how big is the font size and what type of font type it is. Okay, is it a casual or is it a formal font type that's used? Okay, is it big or small? So that would be regarding the text, right? So now you need to also look at the visuals. Okay, so for example, photographs, illustrations, diagrams, charts, for example. Okay, what are the size of the visuals and where are they placed? Okay, so size and placement. And thereafter, you can also analyze how they work together, how the text and the visuals work together, okay, to convey the message. Okay, how do they interact with one another to be more effective in bringing the message across, right? And the you can also analyze it from the point of view of the reader. Okay, someone who is reading it, what would his response be? Okay, so we call it the reader response, right? So here, when we're talking about a message, okay, usually we have to look at two things, which is connotations and denotations, right? So denotations over here refer to what is the direct meaning of the words used. Okay, so denotations refer to direct meaning, but more importantly, a lot of times, a lot of the message will be in the form of connotations. Okay, what do they imply? So connotations of words and images, they imply a secondary meaning. Okay, which means that yes, the words their direct meanings, okay, do actually bring a certain point across, but underneath that, there's also another message that's being brought across. Okay, so there's a secondary meaning, okay, behind the words and the images. So it requires some level of cultural association, okay, which can be positive. So it can be a positive or a negative connotation, okay, and it's usually in order to understand what is the implication of the words and images, you have to associate it with a certain culture. For example, okay, in order to sort of understand what is the connotation, right? So for example, the word house is fairly neutral compared to home, but the word home, okay, the letter home has a more positive connotation because a home, you generally feel warm, safe and comfortable as compared to just a house. A house is just a physical house, right? So all these things are important to for you to be aware of, and by being aware of it, you will be able to sort of take them into consideration in crafting your answers. Okay. So here are some examples of the types of questions in section A, the visual text, and the necessary skills you need to tackle them, right? So there are three levels, okay, literal, okay, inferential and evaluative. So let's start with literal. Literal is the most simple, okay, which is understanding the literal text, which is basically what the text themselves actually say. And for example, the answer is usually it can be directly found in the text. So a sample question will be, name 2 ways to contact the organizers of the activity. Okay, so one way is, if it's stated there, you can email them, right? Another way will be you send them a message, right, over the phone. You can usually obtain this answer directly from the passage, from the text, visual text. Okay, so next, level 2, inferential. So inferential will be, you need to because it's not directly stated, so you need to make a connection. Okay, in order to make an inference, you need to draw a conclusion. Okay, by sort of analyzing the visual. Okay, you need to understand what is the purpose. Okay, and you need to understand what is the intention as well. Okay, so through this, okay, you need to sort of draw conclusions, okay, regarding what is the intended message and the purpose. Okay, after you actually analyze the visuals and the text, and by making certain connections between them, okay, you can infer the intention and the purpose, right? So that would be an inferential type of question. So for example, what is the purpose of the activity, right? So for example, the purpose is usually it could be to persuade readers to take action. Okay, is to persuade them, okay, to do something, or it can change their attitude, okay, cause them to perceive something differently. Okay, so these are some common purposes, okay, for the visual text. And another type of inferential question, it can be why will this text appeal to the target audience, right? So why would it work, or why would it be effective in bringing a point across to a certain target audience, right? So by having to explain why, you are actually making an inference, right? So you are analyzing, like you're looking at the language, and you're using at the pictures, okay, the visuals, and you're sort of trying to infer whether with such language or visuals, okay, this will actually work in sort of like achieving something with the target audience. Okay, so that's an inferential type of question, right? Okay, level 3 will be evaluative. Okay, so so for example, okay, how visual and or textual cues meaning signals or clues, okay, elicit a response from readers. Okay, so for example, such a question will take the form of, how does the visual, okay, convey the message. Okay, so what you have to do is you need to explain, okay, how the text or the visuals work together to elicit a specific, okay, emotion, thought, or action in the readers. Okay, another type of example would be, you need to ascertain the reader's understanding of the text, and what is the, you need to sort of identify what is the kind of impact, okay, that you will have, right? So you're talking about what effect will it have. Alright, so as you can see, evaluative is different from inferential in the sense that evaluative would be you actually need to go in depth into understanding the what is the, you need to go into the mind of the reader, okay, the target audience, okay, and to explain how come, why it would have such a response from the reader. Okay, so and as a result, why would it be successful in bringing out a specific result, okay, within the reader or the target audience. Okay, so basically, questions at the evaluative level require you, okay, to explain. Okay, what I'm trying to say is that you need to explain okay, certain things, right? For example, one example would be you need to explain how it achieves its impact. Okay, and one way to explain it would be you look at the images, okay, the words, okay, the usage of typography and its layout, okay, and it can be, you can look at the words, titles, headlines, captions, taglines, and slogans. Alright, so and in doing so, you are sort of explaining, okay, how it actually will have an impact on the target audience. So questions at evaluative level is actually more difficult because you actually have to explain and evaluate, okay, why it has an effect, okay, and how it has an effect, okay, and what the effect would be. So it goes one step deeper. Questions at the inferential level, on the other hand, okay, inferential just basically means that it's not immediately apparent. But basically, the answer is not directly found in the passage, and you're just required to draw certain conclusions. Okay, of course you have to look at what is given in the visual text itself. Okay, in drawing the conclusion. Okay, but it doesn't go as deep as questions on the evaluative level. Okay, so usually they'll be more centered on connotations, okay, puns and metaphors. Okay, so the words themselves do not directly tell you what they are trying to mean. Okay, and you have to just infer them based on your understanding of the context and the culture. Right? What is the connotation behind them, or the secondary meaning behind them? Alright, so you're looking at associated meanings. Okay. Yeah, and usually they're just hinted, but you don't really, you'll not be able to get the answer from the passage. Right? Literal is just, I don't really have to explain this. Okay, it's the most basic and primary meaning. Right? So yeah, just know that questions in section A can be quite difficult. Okay, because they can require evaluative skills. Okay, so a lot of times the questions are not worth many marks, okay, but they may be quite difficult. So usually I'll recommend, if you can't really get the answer right away, okay, you can just skip it. Okay, you can always come back later.